Chapter 46. Unity. So what shall it be? Do you join the Unity, or do you die here? You know, it strikes me. I have never actually been in an elevator before. I hadn't really thought about it until now, with us descending down into Site B packed into this small little box. I mean, I fell down a shaft back in Vancouver, but I'm not sure that really counts. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I had at least one conclusion to draw. Elevator music sucks. Honestly, listening to that idle tune play as we watch the little dial above the door move closer to our destination floor honestly made standing in here almost awkward. How did pre-war ponies do this every day? Honestly, stick some Sweetie Belle on or something, maybe some Sapphire Shores, not whatever the fuck this was.
The music is nice. It feels relaxing.
Altrix noted. Well, maybe I'll just keep that opinion to myself then. The elevator bumped to a halt, and we all raised our weapons as the doors opened, half expecting an ambush on the other side. Nothing. The room before us almost reminded me of a hospital waiting room. The walls and floors were the same dull, rusted metals that we had seen up top, but scuffed red seating lined the right hoof wall, while the left corner was host to an enclosed reception desk. An empty pot sat by the seating, probably once the home of some plant or another, alongside a small table containing a few ancient magazines and other reading materials. There were 3 doors out of here, one behind the reception desk, one directly ahead of us, and one just to the side of the seating. In all, not entirely what I expected. Gun turrets up above, Cobalt noted as we stepped inside, drawing my gaze to a couple of closed hatches along the ceiling. Security camera too, but inactive. Maybe they haven't got all of the security systems up and running. Not unlike Buckingham then, I mused, taking a moment to look through our surroundings before hopping over to the reception desk and examining the terminal. The screen was on, though a lot of it was garbled and illegible. Cobalt joined me, putting his tech skills to use and examining the machine. Looks like a lot of the data is corrupted. Let me see here. He typed away as Moonblossom and Xena kept an eye on the various entrances into the room. Altrix nervously watched us work before shifting herself over to the magazines and sifting through them, probably to calm her nerves. Somebody fucked up here and lost a lot of information. Cobalt grumbled. I do have a map recovered, though. I hummed, taking a look at my pip book and switching to the map. Sure enough, it was there. I've picked up on it, I informed my friends. Looks like if we go through the door dead ahead and hang a right, it should lead us to some kind of large warehouse.
My people might be in there,
Altrix suddenly stated. Hopefully. We should hit that place first, then find Kronos.
and shove that metal eye right up his asshole,
Moonblossom declared.
I call dibs.
Get in line.
Is there anything else of use?
Xena asked Cobalt. Nothing helpful. A couple of notes from the receptionist about meetings. Not much good to any pony now. All right, I said, checking my EFS to see that it was still clear of red bars. There was one, but it was coming from the door by the seating, fortunately away from where we were heading. Moon, hit the door. Let's get a move on. I hopped back over the desk, Moonblossom doing as I asked as she practically kicked the control panel and allowed the door ahead of us to open with its signature screech of scraping metal. It revealed a long metallic hallway with several offshoots spreading out in many directions. Without that map, I realized just how lost we would have become in this labyrinth of rust and metal. A mess of labs, staff quarters, and who knew what else was down here. Everything a group of MAS scientists would need to create weapons of war. We couldn't let Red Eye nor the goddess keep this place. We just couldn't. We reached the end of the corridor. I was keeping an eye on my pip-buck all the while to make sure we had the right directions. I zoomed out to get a better view of the place, taking note of the large space that had to be the central chamber I'd seen in that memory orb. Now, if the big bad cyborg was going to be anywhere... We had right. It's pretty much a straight shot to the warehouse and a bunch of random storage spaces, I told the others. Then we hit back this way and head to the center of this mess. See if we can't do something about it.
Hey, we're just following you,
Moonblossom remarked.
Just tell us where to go, boss.
Hey, what the? I really should have spotted those 2 red bars. I pulled my pistol and fired at the 2 slavers who had just wandered up the corridor, hitting one in his barding and causing him to fall back as Moonblossom instantly shot forward and slammed into the second. No, you're not warning anyone. I sprinted, rushing past Moonblossom and catching up with the retreating slaver. I fired another shot, missing by a centimeter as I grunted with increased magical concentration. I reached out, grabbing his tail with my aura and yanking backwards. He stumbled, but he kicked out as I caught up, and my whole vision blurred as my face felt like it imploded from that buck. I entered Sats at that moment, the moment freezing as the slaver recoiled in pain from the sniper round passing through his leg. I could feel a trickle of blood pouring from my muzzle, the left side of my face stinging really fucking badly from where he had struck me. Bastard! I lined up 2 shots and opened up, both 9mm rounds turning his brains into jelly as the red bar was extinguished. Seeing as the other one was also absent, I didn't need to look back to know that Moonblossom had probably cut the other one to shreds.
Are you all right?
Xena asked worriedly. No time! Move it! I shouted at the others. Those bodies wouldn't stay undiscovered forever. We ran for it, galloping full speed down the corridor towards the warehouse where we hoped the changelings were being kept. We passed by several other doors and thankfully inert cameras, but ignored all of it until we reached the very end of the hallway and our target. I pressed the door controls with telekinesis before we reached it, barging straight on in without a moment to lose. Sats was a given, and it gave me plenty of time to admire the startled faces of the 3 griffins inside. I lined 3 shots for the rightmost slaver and fired, the fucker falling as I quickly extracted Venomous and held a duel with my pistol, firing a single shot at a second slaver and letting his screams ring out as his entire skull started to melt, his eyes boiling and his beak falling free from his face into the ground. 2 red bars vanished, a third following suit as Cobalt lifted him up with his magic and slammed him into a wall, Xena following this up with a single shot to the winded bird's head.
Well, that was awesome,
Moonblossom remarked, but I didn't answer as I took stock of our situation. Before us was a giant metal door that seemed sealed tight. The room around was rectangular and completely open, aside from a small little booth to one side. I made a beeline for it, finding a single console station inside, alongside a silent monitor. Cobalt! I called out to our resident smart pony. On it! He started on the console, all while I turned my attention onto the monitor above it. It looked to be off, but there was a single button on its frame. I pressed it in, watching as the screen flickered to life to show the other side of the giant door blocking us off. It was our warehouse, all right. Giant crates littered the large underground space. The giant cranes and blocked-off conveyors I could see made me think that there had to be some other way beyond the normal elevator, that the MAS got them down here way back when. I couldn't tell what was inside of them, all of them giant blank metal boxes, stacked around to make something of a maze. But I wasn't so interested in that, but rather the changelings absolutely packed inside of it. Granted, the warehouse was absolutely gigantic, making the stable atrium look like a broom closet by comparison. But with the sheer number of changelings shoved inside, they were all practically shoulder to shoulder with one another. All still wore their Stable 84 jumpsuits, their pitbucks strapped to their legs. Without the tools and time, the slavers hadn't removed them. Not that it mattered. They were squashed together like rats, adults and nymphs alike. I could see them shivering, afraid and dying in this goddess-forsaken place. Seriously. Fuck Kronos in every conceivable way. They didn't deserve this.
No.
Altrix muttered in horror upon seeing the live image.
We need to get them out.
Working on it, Cobalt replied.
Yeah, not to be a downer, but that's gonna be chaos trying to get that many changelings out.
Moonblossom pointed out.
Ever heard of a crab bucket? They'll help each other. We live for the hive.
Altrix shot back.
We won't climb over each other to get out. They'll funnel out as organized as they can. We will make it.
I don't see the princess, Xena noted. She was right. Insidious wasn't in there, not that I could see. That was bad. Sent straight to the lab, if you recall, Cobalt mentioned. They'll have the purples pluck the rest out when needed. Teleportation removes the risk of an escape when the door opens. It also means they can just shove in food and water as needed without the same risk. Terrible, but not a bad plan in practice. Kronos is clearly nothing if not ruthlessly efficient. He needs to die, Xena spat. Agreed. Cobalt worked for a few moments more before he gave a dissatisfied huff and stepped away from the console. Security lockdown. I'll need to access a station capable of unlocking it, he informed us. One of us should stay here and wait for the signal. They can then organize the stable dwellers and get them out of here. I frowned. Leaving one of us behind? No. Fuck that. I did not like that idea one bit.
He's right.
Xena!
For the best chance of this succeeding, it's a necessity. So, boss, who gets the job?
Moonblossom asked.
I have to choose?
Oh, come on. How was I meant to make a choice like that? Leaving one of my friends alone in the heart of slaver power in the north? Who would even want that? No pony. No pony. I could already feel Altrix's pleading eyes on me. I knew how badly she wanted to help her people, but... Fuck. All right, Altrix, I said, seeing her brighten up. You need to stay here and wait until we clear the security problem. Then you get your hive and get out of here.
Thank you. I need to be here,
she said gratefully.
I want to be with you guys if I could, but they need me. If I don't...
Xena gave her a smile.
We understand. In the end, it has to be you. They are your people. You can assist them better than any of us ever could. Someone else might get it wrong.
I looked between them. Damn it, I knew they were right. They would easily be quicker to listen to and follow a changeling opening that door over any of the rest of us. They could mistake us for a slaver or otherwise be confused or panicked. Altrix knew what to say, what to do. She was what they needed. But I couldn't leave her entirely alone and undefended. I slung Venomous over my back, pressing my trusty 9mm forward and presenting it to Altrix. I knew she wouldn't like it even before I saw her eyes widen in horror and pain. But this was my condition. Take it.
What? No, I can't.
Altrix, I addressed softly, yet sternly. If they come for you, I need to know you can fight back. I know killing sucks. It always sucks. but you saved me before, and now you need to save your people. Please, I stressed, releasing my hold on the gun as her green aura hesitantly took hold. I've always loved how good you are, how much you want to heal rather than hurt. This will not change that, protecting something you love against people like those slavers. You are not a bad person, and we want you to be safe. Altrix sniffed, shaking and yet keeping a hold on the pistol.
All right,
she whispered.
I don't want to, but I will. If I have to. Only if I have to.
That is all we ask, Xena cooed, giving the changeling an affectionate hug.
We will see one another again soon, and this nightmare shall be at an end. Yeah.
All right, come on, I said to the others. Let's find a security station so Cobalt can do his thing. Let's, the unicorn in question agreed, looking back at Altrix. Be safe, Altrix.
You got this, kid,
Moonblossom added, ruffling her head fin and actually getting a small giggle out of the changeling. As the others left, I gave her one final smile and a nod. I hated leaving her, but I believed in her. She would save them. I knew it. Until next time, Altrix. I turned away and headed back out with the others, checking my Pip-Buck's local map for directions. We had to head back the way we had come from and start moving towards the central chamber. It would be a trek, but there looked to be some rooms along the way that might be security stations. We wouldn't know until we tried. All right, let's get this over with. We left the warehouse and Altrix behind, moving back through the hallways and past the thankfully still undiscovered bodies. Moving past the entrance and down the opposing corridor, we soon found ourselves presented with a multitude of different passages to choose from, and the distinct and frustrating lack of labeling on the Pip-Buck's map was proving to make finding this place a bit of a challenge. Fortunately, the corridors themselves had signs, and we found a junction with a few different markings. One corridor led to a cryostasis lab. Another thing they were messing with here? Another led to some generic laboratories they probably used for researching the Changebuck and things like Venomous. A fourth direction was marked as leading to the flux storage and central vats. That was of obvious interest, but unfortunately, our most pressing concern would be leading away from there, with a final opposing corridor being marked with Security Station Bravo. Guess we were going that way. We started down the corridor, tentatively waiting for the inevitability of running into the next patrol. It had yet to happen, and I had to wonder where they were all hiding. Maybe they were just hanging out in the barracks, not expecting any pony to have made it this far. Maybe they were more toward the vats. I'm sure we were going to find out soon enough. Keeping an eye on my Pip-Buck map, I saw that there was a small room coming up to our right. Past that, the corridor looked like it would loop around and join back up with some of the previous passageways. Still, the room turned out to be just what we needed, as a sign just beyond the door indicated it to be the security station. All right. This looks to be the place. Let's hurry and... I spotted the red bar too late, as Cobalt got ahead of himself and opened the door, the ear-grating screech easily getting the attention of the pony within. But even as I was reaching for Venomous, Cobalt's horn let out a quick flash that didn't even give the slaver time to shout before he crumpled to the ground. As I was saying, he continued without missing a beat, let's hurry up and get this done so Altrix can do her part. Good to see him putting that Twilight Society training to good use. We stepped inside and over the still twitching corpse, moving in and examining the security station. Like the station back in Buckingham's Ministry of Wartime Technology factory, there was a large station with a vast array of screens and controls dominating much of the room. Beyond that, there was a set of lockers spanning the walls and some dormant turrets hanging out of their holes in the ceiling. Please stay that way. Looking up at the array of screens, as Cobalt wasted no time in getting to work, I saw they were all pretty much inactive. None of the cameras throughout Site B were actually in working order. Honestly, I heard Cobalt mutter, can't Red Eye get any recruits with a decent grasp on computers? He says that like it's a bad thing. I let him work, nodding at Xena and Moonblossom to watch the door. As they did that, I turned my attention to the lockers and started to rifle through them. Most seemed to be empty on initial observation, though there were a couple of ammunition clips that weren't much use. The few that Xena could use, I passed towards her, and I even found a singular cell for my own weapon. And then there was the box. It was a small metal box that, to my annoyance, appeared to be locked. Still, that was nothing a good old bobby pin couldn't fix. I pulled out the box and sat down to concentrate on getting the thing open. As I did so, I heard Cobalt give a shout of victory as all the screens blinked to life. That was fast, Moonblossom commented. Anything to show up Red Eye, he snarked, and I looked up to see the various camera feeds. They're only active for this station and any station I see fit. I'm currently working on trying to route controls so that they work only for this console. Any robots? I asked him. One thing at a time, he replied, before then giving a hum. Though on a glance, the encryption looks a little tougher than the last time I did this, and the facility's defenses are split into sections. Getting one online won't necessarily mean getting the rest on side. Right. Any more good news? He paused, flickering through some menu or another. I can see the security lockdown Altrix is facing. I'll focus on that before anything else. Also, it looks like I have immediate access to some of the doors around this place. Not all of them, but I can open and shut a few at will. Useful for preventing or allowing passage, Xena noted. Exactly. I suggest I stay here while the rest of you move in on Kronos. Oh no, not this shit again. Cobalt, I know what you're going to say, Scrap. He cut me off. Splitting up has its risks, but doing so again will continue to benefit us. I have cameras, doors, and if I can get some robotic defenses, you know from experience that it could mean the difference between life and death. True. We never would have gotten out of Buckingham if not for having a couple of sentry bots at our back, but still. There was a click as I succeeded in getting the box open. I pocketed the pin, letting the issue slide for the moment, as I opened it up to see what loot I could get. Well then. 2 items existed inside the box. One looked just like the stealth buck I had used against the zebra remnant, but the markings on the side told me that this one was a little different. Stealth Buck Mark II-B. A change buck prototype. I couldn't help but let a goofy shit-eating grin form on my face. A device to let me do what changelings did? Oh, gimme, gimme, gimme! Pocketing that little technological wonder, and to be honest, I'd probably end up using it sooner rather than later, given where we were, I turned my attention to the second object. Now, as great as the change buck was, this one was... well, interesting was an understatement. It was one final memory orb, after all. Oh great, another brain ball, Moonblossom remarked. You're not really gonna use that now, are you? They usually contain some good information, I pointed out. We might find something of use. And with the collection we've gathered, the Twilight Society is going to have a field day studying and cataloging them all once this is done, Cobalt added in. Because we all give a shit about what the Twilight Society does for a hobby, she deadpanned.
Whatever. You guys do your weird horn head thing. We'll wait here for something to splat.
Charming as ever. I stared deep into the misty contents of the sphere. With Cobalt working on the terminal, we had the time. It would also delay me having to decide whether or not to leave yet another friend alone in this place. What have you got for me? Chrysalis. Her surroundings were extremely familiar, and it was oddly even more surreal than usual to be watching the memory of someone in the exact same room I was currently in outside the memory. I took note of her feelings. She was tired. Her body was weak and battered, and she felt sick to her stomach. Radiation poisoning? Well, if she had rads, when was this?
Well,
Chrysalis gave a humorless chuckle.
here we are. In this pony facility. I should never have relied on Twilight Sparkle for any kind of solution. Ponies, as ever, are a blight on Equus.
Queen Chrysalis gave a hiss of pain as she stumbled up against a wall, using her left foreleg to support herself against it. A foreleg that was missing a certain pip-buck. Chrysalis chuckled again.
I do not know why I even wish to plant these events into those accursed orbs. I do not know why I did so previously either. I know some still lie within this facility. Another is back at the hive. Perhaps I simply wish to recount these events for Insidious, should she ever find these. The truth about everything. She is too young to understand, and far too infatuated with the Equestrians. I hope isolation in the stable will change that. But I fear for the love shortages to come.
She pushed herself off the wall, walking towards the security terminal. On the desk sat the very same memory orb I now watched, sitting next to the metal box which already contained the change buck.
But she will be safe alongside the hive within that shelter. Perhaps the one good thing to come from this alliance. And when it is safe, the stable will open. But I cannot join them. Not now. The road between here and the hive, in cities, is far too dangerous. Naught but fire and radiation exist beyond this facility now, and yet all the ponies inside this Site B have fled to be with their families. They shall all perish, as I hope Sparkle has within Maripony.
Chrysalis sighed, my vision going dark as she closed her eyes for a few moments before opening them again.
And yet, before they left, they sealed much of the facility's systems. I do not know how to reactivate them. And I lost my pip-buck during Haven's burning. I do not know whether the radiation is to leak within these walls, but that aside, the water is most certainly contaminated with the purifier being offline.
So that's how the pip-buck ended up in Ditsy's shop. It must have been left in the ruins of Haven until some scavenger, some pony not unlike who I used to be, picked it up. From there, it must have traded hooves until finally it found me.
Without a pony to assist me in working to restore this facility, I cannot survive here for long. Fortunately, I know of another of their projects still up and running. Cryogenic freezing.
What?
Should you find this in cities, head to the appropriate lab.
You shall find me. Wake me, and we shall lead our changelings into domination over whatever is left of this pathetic land. The changeling queen snarled, slamming a hoof into the desk as she cast her gaze downwards, her breathing heavy and labored through a mixture of rage and exhaustion. Then, suddenly, her breathing began to level out as she looked back up at the silent monitors. I could just make out the queen's face reflecting back at her, her anger slipping away in favor of a defeated sadness. Be safe, my daughter. Lead our hive how I could not. Be the queen I failed to be. The world began to distort, and then Chrysalis was no more. I gasped as I was cast out of the memory, emerging into the real world again. The eyes of my friends turned to stare at me almost expectantly, but I wasn't sure what to tell them. Chrysalis was here. Maybe still is. Kronos found her first, so when he and the goddess were talking about the mother, I was rather terrified to find out what they had done with the queen of the Equestrian hive. Anything we can use? Cobalt asked. No, not really, just something to look out for, I answered, frowning as I got up and planted the orb into Cobalt's saddlebags. For all that might have happened, I wonder if Chrysalis would and maybe even is proud of the ruler in cities became. I'm just glad that, for all of her generally serious and sometimes intimidating demeanor, that her more peaceful outlook hadn't changed as Chrysalis hoped. The hive that existed today just wasn't the dominating type. How about you? Any progress? I asked the other unicorn. You weren't in there that long, he retorted. Though something interesting has popped up on one of the security feeds you might want to see. Oh? What is it? Look, he responded, pointing up at the monitor right in the center of all the rest. Oh. Cobalt engaged the audio, and right away I heard Kronos' voice come in over the speakers as he stood in the center of the central chamber. The cybernetic griffin was leaning up against a railing and looking menacingly down into one of the vats of taint, the distinct profile of a purple alicorn standing behind him. And there, chained to the central column with a ring over her horn, was none other than Princess in Cities. Are going to be key once the testing begins, changeling. Princess to you, cretin! In Cities spat. Release me and test how you'd fare in a real battle, not that cowardly tactic you used back in the hive. Oh, I think not, he calmly replied, turning around and facing the royal changeling. I consider myself a griffin of my word, but in combat, honor becomes such a fickle thing. Letting you run amok would not be in the interests of my lord. Red Eye's interests are no matter. We decree you shall remain chained. Our last subject is too corrupted to be a viable source. We must have you to complete the project and transform your subjects into mine. Last subject? What do you mean? Cities growled. What have you done? Oh, you will discover soon enough. Kronos dismissed. When the time comes, if you live. Not that it shall matter, I'm afraid. Like the rest of your race, you will serve Lord Red-Eye.
Nay, they shall serve unity.
Kronos rolled his eyes, even the cybernetic one. They shall be far more controllable with simple brain implants. It is as Red-Eye decrees.
Fool! The goddess shall have them in unity. Only then shall their potential be fulfilled.
Oh, I hope we get a vote, Insidious snidely remarked.
Because I say you should both jump into those vats and save me the trouble of killing you.
This is neither the time nor the place for this debate. It shall be resolved at a later date. I do believe we have bothered the good princess long enough.
Very well. We shall prepare for the testing to begin. There won't be any testing!
Insidious spat. I wouldn't resist, my dear. We have more than enough strength to handle an immobile, magicless changeling, even without the rest of the purples, since the goddess decided you apparently aren't worth more than one.
Our attention is required elsewhere. Nuisances have arisen.
No matter, Kronos said, turning his gaze to another nearby slaver. Gather a guard detail. Prepare for the first batch to be taken. I do not believe they shall go quietly.
The first batch? If they were about to start live testing, I think we had arrived right in the nick of time.
The goddess seemed to frown. The alicorn looked away from the chained changeling to...
Oh shit, why was she looking right into the camera? Kronos, you did not inform me that the security system had been rendered operable.
Kronos frowned. It hasn't.
Indeed. I do believe some such nuisances have eluded you once again.
The alicorn turned to Kronos, and then she gave a twitch as her demeanor and voice changed.
Prepare your tests. We have been tasked to deal with them ourselves.
Oh, crap. Time to go, guys, I announced to the others, painfully aware that every slaver in this entire facility was about to know we were here. Cobalt, have you gotten that security lockdown released yet?
Nope,
he urgently replied. Scrap, I need to stay here. You three go on ahead, cause some trouble. I'll seal the door behind you, try to assist where I can.
You certain about this?
Moon asked him.
A lot of dickheads are about to be knocking on that door.
I am. I'll contact you over intercoms when I need to. Just get going! Cobalt stressed, storming towards us and all but forcing us out. I put out a huff and stopped his efforts, looking him dead in the eyes. You be careful, Cobalt. You hear me? I didn't let you drag me through all of this just to get killed now. He shot back. Hey, technically you hired me. Details! Now get! I have a system to hack. He remarked with a small smile. I'll be fine. Just do your thing. I gave him a small nod, hating the fact that we were now leaving two of our friends to fend for themselves. But he was right, this had to happen, even if I hated that fact. We stepped out of the security station as Cobalt locked the door behind us. Already, a few new red bars were starting to show up somewhere in the corridors near us. The whole place was starting to wake up, and we were about to be in the thick of it. An army of slavers and even an alicorn. All right then. One final effort.